How's it going, everyone? And this is Melvin Tan here from the Melvin TV. And a very good evening, everyone. So, how's everyone doing? I just like to find out from you, like, what are some of the things that you have been up to lately? Well, I'd like to share what I've been up to lately. This couple of weeks have been kind of crammed with training, both online as well as face to face. So that has been good. That has been keeping me busy and giving me the opportunity to meet new people as well as to teach them in terms of how to create videos as well as how to use social media in a more effective manner. And you just couldn't imagine that there are, in fact, many organizations out there that are just still not clear in terms of how they could use social media. And so the opportunity is there, and truly, if you ask me, the ability to really get people to embrace a digital technology is definitely something that you can tap on. So if you got a skill set and if you have the interest, please write to me because currently we are hiring, we are recruiting people, and so we want to look at people who have got expertise or experience in customer experience, designing digital customer experience. We are also looking at people who are looking at who have the expertise in terms of digital marketing, as well as we're looking at people who actually have the ability to crunch data because these days, and especially these days when we have lots of data available to us, I noticed that many people are not able to understand data and the analytics itself. And so this is something that we definitely want to be able to provide um, as a service. And so we're looking for great people. If you know someone who has got that ability, please drop me a note. If you know someone who is looking for a data analysis, also drop me a note there. All right. With that all said, let's go. Let's get into today's topic itself. Well, today's topic essentially is continuation from yesterday because yesterday we talked about the thinking behind creating online courses. And when we talk about creating online courses, before you even talk about creating online courses itself, I make it abundantly clear that there are 9 things, if not 10, that you will need to know before you even start creating online courses. And if you miss or if you have not watched that video, make sure you check it out because that video is going to give you the nuts and bolts in terms of what you need to know before you even start creating your online course, right? And so definitely check this out. The link will be provided in the description. Right. And so today we want to talk about, is there an approach that you take or a framework that you use when you are creating online courses? And this is purely from my experience because in the last, 20 years or so, I have been deeply involved in creating courses, both online as well as offline. And in the process itself, I noticed that there are a few things that I do. When I do those things, the courses do very well, whether in person or it's delivered online. But when I kind of ignore those elements itself, the the courses then fall flat. I mean, it becomes very mediocre. I mean, it meets the standard, but it doesn't blow people away. And so we want to blow people away. We want to be able to make an impact. We want to be able to bring that aha to people itself, right? So especially when we are designing online courses, because when it's come down to online courses, particularly courses that are asynchronous, whereby people could kind of attend the course on their own at their own pace itself. Not many people may be motivated enough to be watching you the whole time, and so you definitely need to spice it up. So some of the techniques and some of the things that you need to do, we'll be covering in today and as well as subsequent episodes as well. So make sure you subscribe if you have not subscribed, and make sure you hit the thumbs up if this episode has been good, right? So let's get to today's framework. So today's framework um, the approach that I'd like to share with you um, uses an acronym called DAZE, right? Not DAZE, but DACE, right? DACE. So, what exactly is DAZE? Now, DAZE stands for, you know, let me just run through that, right? So, DAZE stands for, D stands for a deep. Now, when I say deep, when it comes to online learning, I do not mean that you go deep and you go dense and you talk about all this theory and that stuff. No, that's not what I meant. When I say go deep itself, it means that let's say you take a an online course at a very top level. For example, an online course about mindfulness, right? So that is at the top level because it's talking about mindfulness. And I understand why people will want to create a course like that because they kind of perceive that it appeals to a larger group of people. And since it appealed to a larger group of people, more people would then sign up for the course. Nothing wrong with that thinking, except it is flawed because when it appeals to everyone, it appeals to no one. All right. So let's say you have a course that is talking about mindfulness, or you have a course and you have been advising, corporates about business culture itself. You can have a course about business culture, but that is too broad. And at that broad level, you kind of, see yourself competing with many other providers, and then you then have to, justify and rationalize to the potential learners why they should be picking your course. And so, that becomes a really tough game because at that level itself, the competition, it's really great. And I say competition because, imagine if you are a small and mid-sized company vis-a-vis you are a large company with sufficient budget. Then, if you're going to put out a course on business culture and you're going to price it at 4995, which is 4995, well, for the big organization, they may be able to stomach that kind of pricing, but a small organization is going to say, well, it's going to be too expensive. They are going to be asking for, like, is there a grant? And they're going to say that, are there discounts and all that. And so that result in a lot of competition, and also that result in a lot of problems. So what you like to do is you actually like to go deep. And so if we take the example of a business culture online course as an example to work on, when we say go deep, we could look at something in the SEO term, we call it long tail. So when we talk about business culture, there are many different aspects about business culture that we can talk about. We can talk about, how do you measure business culture? Sure, it's not going to be a 58 video length kind of a full and complete online course. But let's not kid ourselves here because no one wants that full and complete online course. No one wants, to do this themselves, right? And besides, if they are starting at that top level, if they're starting to look at building business culture in their organization, it means they have got no clue at all. And so having a course at that level and expecting them to implement it, it's just wishful thinking. So I would suggest that you go deep and you talked about, building, measuring, business culture, for example. That goes in, within the broad frame of business culture itself. You talk about the aspect of measurement, or you can talk about the three or the five key drivers of a business culture, right? And you go deep in that sense. Or even you can talk about, technology and business culture. How does that go hand in hand, right? You can actually go deep in that process itself. And so when you look at your online course and a brilliant online course to create, because these days people want specificity, people do not want things that are too generic. And so, if you are able to go deep, that's where you are able to immediately distinguish yourself from the competition, number one. Number two is that you are also allowing your potential learners to self select, because if they are looking at a very introductory level of business culture, obviously they're not going to be taking that technology and business culture. They might take up the measurement one because that's something that they're grappling with, but something that is a lot deeper, something that is a lot more advanced, they are not going to want to do that. Right? So D, it's deep. Now let's go to the second element. Right? The second element in this essentially is A. And when we talk about um A, in fact, stands for actionable advice. Now, a lot of time, when I attend courses, whether it's online courses or it's face to face, in person kind of workshop, I find that many a time the focus, the emphasis, it's really at the level of concept, right? So if you think about it, an idea has got a concept, right? And that concept itself will require implementation. And that implementation will require tools to help implement those advice. And so when you are looking at creating an online course, you do not just want to provide information. Why? Primarily because information is something that everyone is able to, well, I mean, I say everyone, but you know what I mean? Everyone is able to have access to that information because we got Google these days, right? And so the key here is not to provide information, not to provide concept. I mean, you can introduce concept, but your entire course itself shouldn't be just about concept. What your what your course want to focus on is actionable advice, which means it is something that you tell people, why they should be embracing this idea, and then you go on to help them or to share with them how they could implement that, right? Because this is not academic, right? This is real life and this is business. So at the end of the day, I want to be watching this video. I want to be able to say that I got away with this set of actionable advice. I know now what to do. Like after watching this, you will have a brilliant approach to creating online courses, right? And so A stands for actionable advice. Give actionable advice. And I'll tell you one more thing why actionable advice is so crucial. The reason is because the people who are taking the course, a good percentage of them will need help in terms of implementing the actionable advice that you are giving, right? And so the help that they need could be in the form of I need an extra pair of hands to do the work, right? Or the help could be I need more of my people to have this skill set, right? So that we can implement it at a company level. Or that help could be I need the resources. So if you think about it, that it opens up a whole new world of possibility. There is possibility for consulting projects, there's possibility for training projects, there are possibility for you to even sell tools or resources there, right? So A stands for actionable advice. Now let's go to C. Now, C, it's essentially to me, C is, complete. Now, when I say complete, I do not mean that you want to create an online course and you kind of talked about, business culture from A to Z. or you talk about mindfulness from A to Z itself. That's not what I meant. Now, what I mean by complete is that you have to think of the entire learning experience as a full and complete one. Now, what do I mean by this? For the longest time, online courses has predominantly be just, either a talking head like this, or it's just someone narrating, a script over a series of PowerPoint. And I do not know about you, but this is boring to hell, right? It's so boring to watch that you just cannot go beyond, a couple of minutes without scrolling somewhere else, right? You may have it playing in the background, but it's not exactly, unless your life depended on it. Otherwise, it's not going to be something that you are going to be doing that, right? So an example I can give you is, in the insurance industry, when someone study for their papers, one of the things that they would have to do is actually to go through an e-learning module. And that e-learning module, because your life depends on it, because without completing some of those modules, you would not be able to sign up for the exam. And so because of that, no matter how boring it is, no matter how bad it is, you would still have to watch it. And that's because your life depended on it, right? And of course, in that process itself, can you make the entire learning experience a lot better? I think there is room for that, right? There is room for that. And so as for you, the way to do it is, you want it to be complete. Now, when we talk about complete, here's where we talk about completing the entire learning experience. Now, a complete learning experience would involve a few things. And I'm just going to give you some examples here. The learning experience could be giving your learners a set of visually appealing images that describes the issue at hand, right? So they can learn by looking at images or diagrams, because many a times, just with the diagram and the explanation of the diagram itself, it things becomes evident, right? Of course, you can make the diagram visually appealing, and that would be one notch up. But in any case, you can leave it as just diagrammatic, right? But that kind of gives you a, a way to allow your learners to visualize it and then to be able to understand the concept, right? So you can use visuals. The other thing is that you can use audio, because not many things requires a video. Although, I am a firm believer of why you should use video itself. That say, I would also be the first to tell you that not everything has to be a video. Some things can be an audio, in an audio format, right? And it's definitely a lot easier to produce things in audio format, because arguably, if this is going to be on audio, what I could do is I could even record this in my boxes, and you wouldn't even know, right? And so the key here is that, the way for you to produce it is a lot easier, and the way for your learners to consume it would be a lot easier as well. Because why? Because audio definitely allows your learner to do it and multitask at the same time. All right, so you want to consider audio. Now, the other thing that you must not ignore, and just because it's an online course doesn't mean that it has to be video. You can, in fact, even include text, articles for them to read, right? Or a curated article, and or an insight that you have, after distilling all the insights from the article itself. That's something that you can provide to your learners. And that's something that they could read, and they could kind of go back and revisit that. And so, it allows for that kind of a back and forth. So some people may be able to read faster and absorb better, some people can't. And so, it appeals to the different kind of learners as well. And then, of course, lastly, you would definitely want to use video, in some way, shape, and form. Why? Because it really engages the people, and it also gives people it demonstrates to people your level of energy as well. So, for example, in my live show, it's not just about pumping in myself up, but the fact of the matter is because I am passionate about what I'm talking about, and that's why you can see it in the video itself, right? And so complete experience, that's something that you want to think about when creating the online course. And then lastly, we come to E. Now, E is the last one. E is actually something that I have been thinking about a lot. And this last bit is the part that I would say, the smart course creator, this is something that they would use to bring it to the next level, right? And this E, it's basically, to use a very simple term, it's what extra thing can you do for them, right? What extra thing can you do for them? So think of, your training, your online course. Think of it not as a training, but think of it as you are educating your potential clients or your existing clients to be able to find a way to engage you in some way, shape, and form to help them implement and to help them take it to the next level. So, like earlier on, when I talked about actionable advice, right, under A, actionable advice, gives them that confidence and give them that movement, that progress in terms of what they need to do, right? Because if, for example, you invested 19 minutes of your life watching this video itself, and at the end of the day, I'm just talking about concept, then obviously you are going to be very much pissed off. So what you really need to do is, you want to be able to give people actionable advice, and which is what I did here, right? And then on the E part, it's really that's where you can talk about what extra thing that you can do for them. And I alluded to that earlier. It could be something extra, could be you can then now go in and train all their people, right, in terms of executing this strategy that you have shared with them. Or, that extra thing could be you going in and doing it for them, right? And so it's like a done for you kind of a service, or it's a consulting service that you provide. Or that extra thing is that now they would need the tools to help you to help them do that, right? To help them implement. And this is where you can bring in, products or addition or affiliates to kind of introduce the products to them. And so DACE is a brilliant approach that I've been using for the last 15 to 20 years when designing courses, both online as well as offline. Take that and use that framework, use that approach yourself, or use it to help you think about your online course. And definitely, your online course will not be just mediocre, but is what that is going to help your online course stands out, right? And so with that, got a question for me? Leave in the comments if you found this video to be useful. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. And one more of this. Tomorrow we'll be sharing about the books that I've read that helps me shape the way I think about creating curriculum design, instructional design. Make sure you stay tuned for tomorrow's show, where I'll go deep into that. And if you want more videos like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell so that every time I go live, you will be notified of that. And so with that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye bye.